Okay, so this topic actually is a question that comes up from both buyers and sellers around the conversation of pre-qualifications versus pre-approval. So I want to kind of give you a breakdown of the difference between the two. They're both good. They're both, in my opinion, really required or should be required anytime that an offer is coming in on a property. If you're going to submit an offer, you definitely want to have one of them, but there are differences between the two of them. So let's talk about the pre-qualification first. Pre-qualification is just a very preliminary step. It's very basic and it can be done online. They're essentially just, everybody's got a little bit different parameters, but you're going in and putting in some basic information and they're saying, okay, based on what they told us, we think that we would qualify them for a loan up to this amount with this down payment in this program. Okay, you can get a pre-qualification online from dozens, if not hundreds of companies, probably within 15 minutes, some of them even quicker. Now, what's the upside, the benefit to that? It's quick, it's easy. It doesn't typically involve a credit check, so that's good. And it doesn't involve supplying a lot of additional documentation to a lender. So they're basically taking what you're telling them and saying, okay, if all this stuff is accurate and it's legitimate, then this is what we might be able to do. So quick, painless, and very basic entry level in terms of your qualification. The downside of that, of the pre-qual only, is that it can be seen by sellers and sometimes agents as just a preliminary step. So if it's very, very easy to get something, then the value tends to go down a little bit in the eyes of the agent and the seller. Now, and the seller. It doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. You definitely want to at least take that step, but in lieu of being able to get a full pre-approval, the pre-qualification is a good option. Put side by side with a similar offer, a pre-qualification is probably not going to be seen at the same level as a pre-approval, with all of the things being equal. Okay, so pre-approval, what's the difference there? Pre-approval is going to be more formal, and typically it's going to involve you supplying some documents to prove what you're telling them. So maybe it's income, they're doing a credit check, they're seeing where your credit score is, where does that fall within their parameters of lending, so it can determine your interest rate, which will determine your payment. So they get more detailed in that, and the lender's verifying some of those things. Usually the pre-approval will carry a little bit more weight with the seller and with the agent. Now, the interesting thing is, though, you have to make sure that you're differentiating that. If you get a pre-approval, make sure that you're differentiating that this is a pre-approval, this stuff's been verified, versus a pre-qualification, because they don't always spell that out on the letter that you get that you're going to send in with your offer. Okay, so make sure that you're clear on what do you have, and whoever you're submitting to that knows that as well. Sometimes in a pre-approval, it can actually include up to the underwriting process. And if you're fully underwritten and they've verified everything already, they know you're good to go. That's a strong indicator to the seller and the agent that you're going to be able to get this done. One of the scenarios that happens in a lot is if the buyer's already gone through the lending process and for whatever reason, maybe a deal fell through, but the lender's like, listen, they're good to go. We've already got them through all this process and through underwriting. They just need a property now to purchase. Then that a lot of times that's where somebody will show up with that full pre-approval, underwritten and everything. Seller and agent look at that and say, that's a strong buyer. Okay. The downside of a pre-approval versus a pre-qualification is it does take a little bit longer. And if you're going to supply all those things, then most of the time people want to kind of have an idea of who they're working with, because it does take extra time and effort on the buyer's part. So it's probably not going to be something where you're going to go through multiple people, multiple lenders on a full pre-approval process to make your decision. So use those points, whether you're a buyer and determining which one you need, or you're a seller looking at offers. make sure that you understand what you have and the difference between them. Thanks so much for allowing me to continue to be your resource and answer these questions for you. And if you have any other, detailed questions or need more information on any of these topics, please reach out to me anytime. Talk to you soon.